Hello friends, welcome back to Help. Today we're going to be talking about how to rescue a base that has run out of food. And by the way, in the previous Help videos I had kind of simulated what a base would look like if you got yourself into that situation. But this time I actually have a real base that somebody sent in for a different series of Fix My Base videos, and I just decided to use it for this one because it made a little bit more sense to use in this context. I want to properly credit you, and I think your name is Crapton Rex, but I can't find your channel. You didn't leave me a link to it, so you know who you are. Alright, anyway. So, let's talk about a few methods that you can use to get yourself out of this situation. We're going to go from more simple methods to more complicated methods. This one doesn't fit perfectly in like the whole video structure we do for Help videos, but either way, I think this will still have some good information, so let's get it going. Okay, as the slide said, there's a few simple things you can do to get yourself out of the hole in the short term, and they are pretty easy things to do. So let's take a look at those really quickly and see if we can't get ourselves out of this hole. So you might notice this is one of the rare videos where I actually need to keep the game paused, and that's because somebody is starving right now. Good old Flobber, trying to get this mealwood harvested. Flobber is about to die from starvation, so I don't want to keep the game running and have somebody die during this, because that low-key is a way to solve your hunger problems, just have less mouths to feed, but, you know, we can't be that brutal. We gotta keep these, we gotta keep Flibber and Oofles. Oh, Oofles is already dead. Okay, well, I guess someone already died. Wait. Dead and dead tired from a snoring friend. That is the best set of statuses I've ever seen. Okay, anyway, let's get this base fixed. So the first thing that you want to do, or be aware of anyway, is around the map, especially in the temperate biome, if you still have access to it, there's a lot of food here that you might not recognize. So anything that looks sticking up like this is food. You can go dig this up and just get it. So that's going to be the first thing that I do, is kind of find all these little areas that have food and go dig them up. That's going to help me in the very short term, but you would be surprised how many bases I've seen that look exactly like this, where there's still a lot of these to be had, but I think newer players might not notice that they're something that you can just dig up and get food from immediately. So that's going to be the first thing that I do. I'll wait for a second to unpause this, because I have a couple other things to talk about. I know this is going to be a little dry without any games running or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these, by the way. Let's grab those. So that ought to give me a good amount of food, at least to start out. The second thing we can do is, if there's any natural plants growing, you can just go into this harvest tool and just harvest all of them. So instead of digging some of these up, you could just mark them for harvest, and your duplicants will go get them. Either way is an option, but if there's any natural plants like this is ready to give me food, I can just harvest that and give free food from just it existing on the map. Same thing with one right here. Couple more plants. I'll dig this one up. I think you get the idea of there's a lot of natural plants around here that you can benefit from. One more thing that we're going to talk about for this very simple part. Oh, here's some more stuff, by the way. For this very simple part is just fix the problems you might have in your base right now. There's no reason for your base to be looking this dead and having a hard time growing at this point. So we can get those fixed up really quickly by just kind of diagnosing what's going on with these. So if you click on one of them, you can see what the problems are. One is that the atmosphere is an issue, which I can't really tell why. It looks like it's in the right things. It might just be because it's in carbon dioxide. So if that's the case, we can kind of dig around it, but we'll fix that. The second thing is illumination. So it looks like we just don't have any power and just have a disconnected line. Just need to clean that up really quickly. So like I mentioned, this base was for a Fix My Base entry, but this is going to be kind of like a mini episode of that, I guess. It's going to kind of serve both series really quick. Only because this is definitely something that we could fix up pretty quickly, but it's so early in the game that I don't want to get fully sustainable on this, because it'll take forever and kind of be a little bit unnecessary. Anyway, with all that out of the way, one more thing is, again, if you have this temperate biome, dig it out. There's no reason to keep it. And the other reason I say that is because these things right here, these buried objects, these could be food too. So obviously my first priority is to fix the problems that I'm having in the base right now. As far as any food growth goes, looks like we do have this. Oh, we just didn't have power at the time. It looks like they are connected, but they're on their own separate grids. That's probably why. Yeah, let's just get everything connected back up together. Get that in there. All right, so we do have food growing here. My duplicates are going to go grab some food here in just a little bit, at least all the buried stuff, so they should get on that pretty quickly. And we're going to start lifting ourselves out of this hole and kind of get up to a more sustainable point. Now there's a arbor tree planted here. Why is that planted here? All right, we'll just get these other ones in here too. And if you're having a problem with growing your food at a certain point, like let's say it's too hot over here or something, you can definitely pull up seeds from places that they're no longer needed and put them into places that are going to be better for it. We also have some dust caps growing here, so that's kind of interesting. But we're going to talk a little bit more about cultivating different food types here in just a little bit, but I want to make sure my duplicates are at least prioritizing the stuff that's going to keep me alive right now. Because we're still at 0 calories, all things considered. So anything that they might need to go dig up or harvest or something like that, you can just raise the priority, get your duplicates over there to get them taking care of that as soon as possible. So also we might need to build some ladders down to grab some of this stuff or something like that. So I think you get the idea. Just make sure you have used up as much as you possibly can on the map. The second thing, too, if you get really desperate, you can start making mush bars and lice loaf, which looks like it was being created anyway. I usually don't like those unless you are absolutely desperate. This is a big waste of water and a big waste of resources, so I'd rather not do that. And yeah, Flobber is finally eating, also mourning and has yucky lungs, but we need to bury Oofles. Oofles is in a bad spot. All right. I think you get the idea. Just get out on the map, explore, because you can dig yourself out of some surprising situations only by looking around and grabbing the stuff that you need. Oh, I don't want this. Get out of here, Sweepy. So yeah, we'll get all that stuff stabilized, but the next thing I'm going to talk about is farming and kind of getting your farming stabilized. So let's talk about that option, as we're going to be calling it our Innovator option. So here we go. Alright, like I mentioned, or I guess like the slide just mentioned, cultivating efficient food types is going to be the next thing we really want to shoot for. And one of the most efficient ways that you can do this is just by planting a whole bunch of mealwood and getting your bristle blossoms expanded. You can overdo this, but if you're this worried about food, then that's not really the time to be worried about producing too much food. So the mealwood can exist just in these regular farm tiles. The bristle blossoms need to, or rather it's better that it exists in the hydroponic farm tiles because they can be fed automatically. Yeah, and then the other thing that you can do if you're in this desperate situation, you can see that Flibber is about to starve to death as well. We need to find another way to generate calories quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on a killing spree down here and kill all of these Pacus so I can get some food right away. But I'm also going to ban my duplicates from eating foods that I don't want them to. So I want them to only eat certain foods that are going to be more calorie efficient. So rather than letting them eat bristleberries, I'd rather let them cook it to get the extra calories here. And I'm going to stop making mush fry because I don't really want to make that with the water that I have available. So yeah, I'm just going to run down here, exterminate some Pacus. I'm going to build out the rest of these blossoms and mealwood so we can get more production here. We'll keep everybody alive and we should be okay, but this is definitely scraping the bottom of the barrel here. So yeah, we'll get that fixed here really quick. Well, I just stopped recording and realized that I forgot to mention how to ban my duplicates from eating certain things that I don't want them to eat. So any raw ingredients that can be cooked and turned into something else, actually meal ice is fine. Anything that can be cooked and turned into something else that will result in more calories, I don't want to let my duplicates eat. So I'm just going to... Oh, I need to also ban the Pacu fillets, but we might have never gotten them. Just make yourself familiar with all the options that are here and ban all the foods that you don't want them to eat so that you can squeeze out some extra calories just by having your duplicates cook. So, yeah. Anyway, back to exterminating and keeping our duplicants alive. Okay. Killing spree completed. Food is kind of coming up here. Getting some more gristleberries growing. But the problem... Or sorry, not gristleberries. Bristleberries. Turning them into gristleberries so they can eat. Banned a bunch of food types that they're not allowed to eat because I want them to eat either the better quality version or the one that has more calories. Next thing I need to solve is the needs of these plants. So this section would guess... Or, sorry, this section was supposed to be all about cultivating different food types, but you need to be very attentive to what your plants are going to need. And one thing that I'm getting worried about is the body temperature of some of these. They can only sit between a certain temperature, so a couple of things I can do to deal with that is I can just kind of look around with my temperature overlay and find the cooler parts of my base so I can relocate my food there if I need to. So I'm just going to relocate some mealwood over to this area and continue to plant a whole bunch more. Also, the thing that I'm going to be looking for long-term is another source of water. Unfortunately, a lot of the natural water did get used up already, but there's still plenty. So there's some right here that I can pump in there. I'm going to start running dry on these bristle blossoms here, so that's the next thing I really need to solve, is just to get access to water and continuously use it for my food. This one's the most easily accessible right now, so this is probably the one that I'm going to start pumping. But yeah, just pay attention to what your food is going to need, whether that's going to be water or temperature needs or something like that, and make sure that you have a way to provide it. It sounds pretty obvious, not always super obvious. I'm just going to keep going on restoring this base, but the thing we're going to be looking for long term is an ice biome. Because once you get your ice biome up and once you have a good amount of bristle blossoms, that should solve your food for quite a long time. So I'll just keep plugging along. Okay, a few cycles later, let's see how we're looking. Got a decent amount of production here. I'm starting to cook my meal lice into pickled meals just to make sure it lasts longer so I'm not wasting any food. Bristle blossoms coming up here. We got our water source hooked up. Yeah, we're starting to have to move a bunch of gases out of the way to make sure that our plants can still grow, because you do need to take note of the atmosphere and the air pressure that these plants will need in order to grow in. So, again, if I'm having problems growing food at the current place that I am and I'm desperate, I might find somewhere else for these to grow. So I could theoretically move all my food up here if I needed to, because it's nice and cold, and it will be filled with the gases that I know that these plants are going to need in order to thrive. Also, from the previous step, like I mentioned, dig everywhere, especially in this temperate biome. You'll be surprised at what kind of stuff you find in here. It'll be like hatches, it could be food, it could be seeds, and you're going to need seeds to build up a farm of this size for sure. So, can't stress enough, just get out on the map and dig as much as you possibly can. Going to continue to stabilize this. I'll probably move a bunch of these gases out of the way. Like I said, this is going to be kind of a mixture of a Fix My Base episode and a help episode, so we're going to kind of be doing some double duty here, fixing up this base. But now that I'm getting close to stabilizing, once I mine out the temperate biome a little bit more, I'm going to start branching out as much as I possibly can and look for an ice biome, and that'll kind of be the last little key that I need to get my food stabilized, at least for this part of the game, before we start talking about some more wild options. Okay, making some progress. Just got a simple ventilation system set up here. This is on the subsurface ocean asteroid, I'm pretty sure, meaning that getting to the top is obviously going to be really hard. So the only thing I planned on doing was just getting a bunch of gas out of the way so my food can continue to grow, and that's really all I'm trying to prioritize here, along with trying to clear out all the temperate biome so I can dig for all the food and the seeds and everything that I would need, plus give myself plenty of space to work with, which is obviously a big indirect thing that can kind of threaten your food situation if you don't have good air circulation or cooling or anything like that. So yeah, just about done mining out the temperate biome. Then we're going to go searching for an ice biome and see if we can find one, and if we can, then that will be kind of the end of this little section talking about getting on a good farming system. Okay, been looking around a lot for an ice biome, and I think I forgot how sparse they are on these subsurface ocean asteroids. Either way, they should still be out there somewhere, so let's see if we can just kind of skip ahead and find them. Just going to do this, which will reveal the whole map for me. And yeah, here we go. Here's one. Looks like there's another one over here. and another one over here. I'll just kind of demonstrate the point that I wanted to demonstrate and not take forever to dig to everything. We're just going to get there by virtue of erasing some parts here just to get it out of our way so we can get up there and get into the biome. So I'm just going to kind of head through here really quickly. I'll destroy a bunch of stuff that's in my way, so kind of get this water out of the way. I know it's the point of this map, but if you're playing on any other map, it's going to be a lot more relevant if you just do something like this. So let me delete all this water too. There we go. Alright, let's say we found our way up into this biome. What we would want to do... Well, let me get rid of this water too. What you'd want to do is... let me turn on my auto build here. Is you would want to set up some kind of path to get to these. Ideally, they'd be a lot closer to your base, but if you're really hurting for food, or even if you're not, honestly, this is a really good option to get in here and start making a lot of progress. So let me turn on my sandbox tools here really quickly. Options, game, enable sandbox, yep, done, resume. Alright. Whoops, keep pressing the wrong button. So, I would like to just put a couple of airlocks here to get into the ice biome. And build some insulated tiles like that. Dig out the middle. And now that I have access to this extra sleet wheat over here, my duplicants can start running out here to harvest this whenever it's time to harvest. So, any sleet wheat you find in this biome, just mark it for harvest. This is all water wheat, actually. We don't need to do that. Well, whatever. I don't really care that much. So if you do find this, you might get more or less depending on the size of your ice biomes. I'm not going to do it to every single one, but the idea that you'll want to do here is those will produce enough to make you berry sludge. So if you start getting sleet wheat grain, you can set this up to a higher priority, start producing a lot of berry sludge, and if you really want to, you can stop your gristle berries, but it kind of just depends on how much you get. Let me start creating this, because this is a really great option for supplementing your farms that you have at home. Let's see. Grain. There we go. So once we have a handful of sleet wheat grain, we can start making our berry sludge. It looks like, I don't know why it's not recognizing that it's there, but it should be there. Duplicants can start creating that, or they can start running up to the top here to... Oh, forgot to reveal all this stuff. They can start running up here to grab this sleet wheat whenever it is ready for harvest. You'll need a pretty good amount of these to fully subsist your colony on it. And depending on the map, you might not get to it. But that's going to be kind of the point of our next solution for food. And especially if you're on a little bit of a more strapped map. So let's jump to the mad scientist part. Here we go. Okay, I feel like we've stabilized on food in this base, by the way, so I'm not going to worry too much about doing this legit anymore. We're just going to kind of do some debug stuff here really quickly to show you the concepts of what we'd want to do to start ranching. So the idea here is if you have enough space to create some enclosed areas somewhere near the center of your base, kind of like this, you can start ranching different critters, which will be a great way to produce a bunch of different resources, such as reed fibers if you're ranching Drecos, and such as coal if you're ranching hatches. So I'm just going to set up a couple of example areas. We'll just kind of plow through this really quickly and call it good. Oh, we need more water to be flowing for the rest of our food here. Let me get this replaced really quick. There we go. We'll be using our debug tools pretty heavily here for just a little bit, just to kind of skip through this part. There we go. Alright, so we got a little space carved out here. We're going to probably want more than this, but I'm just going to show it as an example. So critter drop-off, we're going to throw that in here. We will also want a station for grooming said hatches. I'm going to check the size here and kind of get an idea of how many hatches we can afford to put in one room. So if we look at the database entry for this, it kind of says how many cells that one of these hatches is going to need. So you can kind of take the size of the room, divide it by 12, and figure out how many you can fit in there. This is going to be 7. So I'm going to set this up for 7. Going to take our hatches, hatchlings. If we get any stone hatches or anything like that, I'm probably going to want to keep that too. Then we need to wrangle these. Let's say that we... there's only one on the map that I see right now. There might have been more that got killed earlier by how the base was being set up. I think a lot of the eggs are being taken to a central point, but then if eggs are sitting in a bin, they won't actually hatch. They'll just turn into raw eggs. So let's see, do we have enough for this? Let's start getting some duplicates that are spec'd out for it. There we go. So they should move this hatch over here in just a second. I'm going to set this up to a little bit higher priority to make sure that they are getting groomed. Let's just pretend that we did that, and let's spawn a few more hatches because my duplicates are taking forever to do this. They might all be on the same schedule right now. There, that'll be the 7th. That ought to close everything off. Once we get this in here, the simple way to feed these is going to be with just some storage bins. I don't want to use the critter feeders because they are very time inefficient for my duplicates. All I want to do for these hatches is I want to set the food that they're allowed to eat, and I'm only going to feed them sandstone and sedimentary rock. Reason being is I don't want them eating a bunch of the other things that they are capable of eating because they're much more precious resources. So these are all the things that they can eat. You can see sand. I don't want them to eat that. That's very valuable. Same with clay. Crushed rock, like, doesn't even really exist. Dirt, I'd rather use on my food. So there's sedimentary rock that finally shows up. Sandstone we skipped over, so those two are definitely good options. The rest of this is all like cooked food, and I don't want to spend cooked food to get coal back. So I'd much rather just feed them those two things. So I'm going to have these bins asking for a lot of sandstone and sedimentary rock, and let my duplicates fill this up until a point where I can just delete the bins. That'll keep these hatches fed for quite a while. And I can do this, I can basically fill all this up in like 1 or 2 days. That's much better than waiting for my duplicates to run little bits of food to a critter feeder every single time a hatch eats, which is what will happen otherwise. So, much better way to spend their time. A little better way of spending their time. Sorry, oofles, you're gonna go ahead and get destroyed now. There. We vaporized your body in the name of proper mourning. So what would be a better solution for this is having some kind of sorting area for your shipping. I know I talk about this quite a bit, but it's very good. So let's assume that I'm shipping all of the stuff from around my base to one central point. I do this pretty much every single run, and in Spaced Out I'll do it on multiple asteroids, so it's very good to do. I'm going to go ahead and drop a bin here that is just going to be to feed my hatches, and I will send it just kind of up a conveyor belt like this, and drop it into the room, so that if any sandstone or sedimentary rock comes into my sorting area, it'll just get put straight in the conveyor loader and dropped into the room. And then I won't need these bins anymore. That'll be a much more efficient way for me to keep these hatches fed. Let me get rid of a bunch of stuff here so I can create some space for the other things we're going to talk about too. There we go. For these hatches, I'll usually like to make 2 or 3 rooms that are about this size full of hatches. But the problem is that these hatches will eventually lay eggs, and they will be much less happy being in the position that they're in. And this is finally what we're getting around to, which is to talk about how to manufacture a bunch of food from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some auto sweepers, and this is just going to grab everything in this room except for the sandstone and sedimentary rock that I want them to eat. So just going to set up some conveyor loaders like that, and ship the contents back to my sorting area. This is going to be a little bit weird because I probably shouldn't have built that the way I did, but whatever. So anything that these hatches produce, I want to send back. That's going to be your coal, and it'll also be anything else that they produce, like eggs or meat or whatever else they might drop. So, by the way, got these all done. Just going to deconstruct the bins. There, now my hatches are fed for a while. Let's hook all this stuff up to power. And I want it to send out everything except for sandstone and sedimentary rock, because that's going to be their food. There we go. There. Eventually these hatches are going to produce eggs. Everything is going to get sent to this central area. Oh, we need to send out the food for them, by the way. Raw mineral. There we go. Hook up some wire. Now the second thing that we need is some place to have all these hatch eggs go to so that we can turn them into food or replenish that room, because this room is going to need to have hatches in it at pretty much all times in order to get the most out of it. So when they produce the eggs, they're all going to come down here, and I want to send them to... I'm just going to clear out a space here really quick. I want to send them to somewhere kind of nearby that is going to be good for sorting all this stuff out. So let's say here. Sure, why not? Here, what we're going to have is just a small room that's going to be to contain all the excess hatch eggs to a certain point. So I'm just going to create a quick room like this. In the middle of this room, I'm going to create a mechanized airlock that's going to be turned sideways. And the reason why is because I want to put a critter drop-off on top of it. And I only want this critter drop-off to be usable. Like if this door is open, for example, this critter drop-off is no longer usable. And the reason behind that is this is going to be the room that has all of my excess hatch eggs. So if any hatch eggs come down this line, it's going to get dropped off. I'm going to ship them back to here, and they're just going to sit in this room. And when my room over here is in need of more hatches, I'm going to allow them to use this critter drop-off to then move the extra hatches back. Now this is where the food is finally going to come into play. The other room that's going to be important here is just a really simple room that's going to be filled with some water. I will want to make this a little bit larger than normal because there's going to be more than one critter that we talk about in the scope of this video. So I just put in some stuff like this. This room is going to be my drowning room. So I'm going to put in some water and just kind of fill up this room. You can get it from pretty much anywhere. You could use salt water. Doesn't really matter. As long as you have a way to seal it off so that whatever is hatched in there gets stuck, it drowns, and then you can just ship out the remainder, which is going to be the meat, which of course is going to be the kind of fuel to the engine that we're going to get for our barbecue creation. So, the specs for this room is I want hatch eggs to drop in here only if I need more eggs in this room. So I'm going to set a limit for how many eggs can be sitting in this room at a time. I only want to allow, let's say, I don't know, 8 hatch eggs at a time. If there are any more than 8 hatch eggs in this room, I want the remainder to go out to this drowning tank. Just going to set it up like that. And then this is just going to come from the sorting area for our shipping. I'll usually want to put them on either side like that, just so we have a little bit more space. So if we get any hatch eggs, or any eggs in general that we might want to flow through here, just going to have them go up this conveyor loader and into the room. I'll spawn some hatch eggs here so we can kind of see this in action. Alright, so let's pretend these hatches laid a whole bunch of eggs. Eggs, here we go. So let's say they produce this. I'm going to want to get them out of this room because my hatches are going to be unhappy if they're stuck in the same room as a whole bunch of eggs. So I'm going to ship the eggs out. The eggs are going to come down the line here. Whoa, that's a weird graphical solution for that. They're going to be sorted into this bin. They're going to go up the line, and they're going to fall out into this room. This room is going to be where a whole bunch of hatch eggs are going to sit, and then eventually we're going to overpopulate it so that there's too many eggs in here right now. I have enough. I don't want to put all of my eggs here. I only want some. I would rather have the excess run down to here so that when those hatches spawn, or rather hatch from their egg, they will just die. And then the remainder of it will all be shipped out through here. So I want to ship everything out except for my critter eggs, so that when it hatches, I'll just kind of ship that back to my central area. Like so. Same thing with the other room. If the hatches, well, the hatches eventually will come out of their eggs. They're going to produce eggshells, and if there's too many in here, or if they're in here for long enough, they will eventually die and turn into meat, so I might as well get that too. So there we go. Same thing as the other one. I want to ship out everything except for my critter eggs. I want the critter eggs to stay in the room. So there, we have a little bit of a loop. As far as getting the critters out of here, let's deal with this. So I want a signal to come down some automation for me if this room is ever underpopulated. So right now, we have our critter drop-off expecting 7 hatches at a time to be in this room. If it's ever not 7 hatches at a time, I want to send a signal over to this door to tell it to close so that my duplicates can come in here and wrangle the hatches from this room and send them back over to the other one. So I'll show you how this is going to work. If I ever have, I only want critters. If this is ever below 7, I want to send a signal down this line. This signal is going to be hooked into a NOT gate and eventually into the door. The way this is going to work is, let's say, let me kill one of these hatches. Now this is saying, oh, I'm at 6, I need 7. It's going to be sending a signal down this line, and it'll close this door so that this critter drop-off is now usable. The critter drop-off, I want to keep some thing in there that I'm never really going to keep. I always just pick a shine nymph. It's one of the easiest ones to assure you're never going to get in that room. And then click Auto Wrangle Surplus, so that whenever a hatch is in here, I'm just going to pretend that these turned into hatches. Hatch. There we go. Note that this will only work with adults. If it's the hatchlings, it will not work. But now that this is usable, a duplicate should come in here. They will wrangle this hatch. They'll grab it up and get it in some ropes. And then they will carry it over to the place that it's supposed to go. Once they carry it over there, that's going to satisfy our population limits. It's going to bring it up to 7. And now this door is going to open, saying that, well, nothing is really asking for any more hatches, so I'm just going to leave it like that. If any hatches spawn in here, which is where the excess eggs are going to go, it'll immediately drown the hatch, and it will turn it into meat, and that meat will get shipped out so that it can eventually be turned into barbecue. This can be a really lucrative way to produce a lot of food, and especially if you're low on resources or if you have a lot of common resources that can just be used for hatch food to keep your population up. So like I mentioned, I'm going to wait for this to drown, by the way. There we go. Yay, some meat. So like I mentioned, I will usually keep 2 or 3 of these size rooms of hatches at all times. So I'm going to do that really quickly just to make sure we get some completion on this. Whoops, I totally just ran over the tiles I placed. Whatever. Oh man, this is a mess. Whatever. So let's do 3. I'm always going to mention that with ranching, it's going to take a lot of your duplicates' time. But for something like this, it's certainly worth it because hatches produce a lot of coal. And coal is a resource, or rather a power source, that you can stay on for quite a long time. So this is why I'll do this pretty much every game. I'm going to copy the settings because they're the same size rooms. Let's just pretend that we got a whole bunch of hatches here. There. And then the critter sensors we also need to add into these rooms because if any of these sensors are saying, hey, I need more hatches, I want it to close the door and allow this to ship stuff out. Let's turn up the amount of eggs that are allowed to be in here just to reflect how many we have over there, just to assure that if we get more eggs that we can keep these rooms populated. So, the way I'm going to have it send anything down there to ask for more hatches in this room, just with an OR gate. These OR gates are basically just going to be if either one of them is saying to send a signal, it'll send the signal. And we can chain the OR gates together, kind of like this. There we go. Nope, that's not what I want. And then just grab your OR gate, put it in there. There. Now let's copy the settings. There. Now if any of these rooms need more hatches, this door is going to close and it will ask for more. It looks like we're already too low because we only have 3. Oh, they're burrowing in the ground. I shouldn't do this. This is why you got to get rid of those natural tiles if you're going to ranch these guys. They're all stuck in the ground. But I think we get the point here that there's a nice loop between hatches and creating more food, specifically barbecue. Barbecue is a pretty good food source, and especially if you're going to be ranching them for something like coal, you want to make sure you're getting the maximum amount of food out of it anyway. Let's set up one more room really quickly, which is just going to be for Drekos. That's the only other critter that I'm going to be ranching semi-commonly. And this one I'm not going to overcomplicate too much. I will usually create a terrarium that's kind of large. And this is usually because Drekos can be very handy on areas where you have like absolutely no resources to grow food. If you can make them with... I should be doing this with insulated tile, actually. Let me switch this out. If you can ranch these Drekos, these are something that will basically be fed for free. Now, the hatches are not always going to last if you run out of resources for them. Oh, we need to start splitting our shipping, by the way, so that we send us all out equally. Make sure all these hatches are fed. Let's see, one this way, and this way. Okay, that'll split it evenly. There. So if you're Drekos, I'm going to create kind of a large chamber. It's going to look... let me destroy all this stuff, actually. I'm going to create kind of a large chamber. Let me get this out. And you don't have to always create it this big. It just depends on how many duplicates you need to get in there. But I keep not making the point I was going to make. Hatches need to eat food. Everything needs to eat food. That's not a very profound statement, but where I'm going with this is that hatch food will eventually run out, and pretty much any food for any critter is going to run out, except for Drekos. That's one of the biggest reasons why they're so useful, is if you have access to... Oh my... Leaking is everywhere. If you have access to balm lilies, that is something that basically just grows for free, as long as you have some form of chlorine to get the place populated in the first place. So I'm just going to close this off really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Something like this. I don't know if this is going to be too wide. Let's check. Nope, we should be good. So let's say we closed off a whole area like this. I'm going to create a really quick liquid lock here just with some water. This is just going to prevent gas transfer on either side. Let's pretend that we put in some pumps to vacuum all this stuff out really quickly. So if we go vacuum. Oh, this is so awkward. Well, this is going to be close enough. I'm eventually going to want to fill this all up with chlorine anyway. So yeah, let's pretend we vacuumed all this out. We didn't quite, but close enough, and it was going to take us a while. Who's making a mess? What's going on here? Why are you doing this to me? Oh, it's because I'm pumping from 2 different directions. That'll do it. Right? Oh no, this is the wrong way too. What am I doing? Making all kinds of mistakes here. Anyway. So now that we got that emergency resolved, clearly. Our Drekos. Oh. Got some stuff stuck in there. Okay. So with this area, I'm going to want to break this up into a couple of different rooms. So something like that. You could put a door right here if you wanted to, or on the other side. Doesn't really matter that much. Guess I'll put it here. Sure. Each of these terrariums is going to be a place for a Dreko, or a bunch of Drekos to go. And then inside here, I'll just create some metal tiles, or rather some airflow tiles, just to make sure that we get some decent circulation inside there. Gonna create some farm tiles. We don't need this many, actually. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Leave some space here for our grooming stations and the critter drop-offs and stuff like that. Let's say we get something like this. Let me build a couple of... Oh, I don't know why it doesn't let you build over that. It's one of the most annoying things in the game. So once we get this, set up some grooming stations in each room. It looks like this is slightly too big, but we still need to put in these anyway, so that should help us out. There we go. We'll delete these ones. Set up some ladders and fire poles. And then in here, all we want to do is plant some balm lilies. But first, we need to make sure that this is all set up with enough chlorine and warm enough chlorine to allow us to plant there. So get some chlorine gas. This is... You usually have enough chlorine gas. It's just kind of sitting in your base to do something with it. You can also use this vent if you really want to, but I don't know. The vent's not great. I'd rather not if I don't have to. And it doesn't need to be super filled up, so we can just kind of put it in here like this. It'll all resettle and get it to the right places in due time. And notice I'm using pretty hot chlorine because you need this room to be kind of warm. Chlorine is one of the worst gases to impart its energy on something else, by the way, so yeah, we'll want to have hopefully a better way to heat this. So if you have access to like a saltwater geyser, which, yeah, there's one right here. This puts out water at 95°, so you could kind of just loop some salt water through here really quickly to heat this room up. But yeah. Get our critter drop-offs for each one of these rooms. Then all we need is some balm lilies. And balm lilies will usually spawn... I don't know if they necessarily spawn on this map. I don't think so. Oh, no, they do, right here. So here's some balm lilies. If you get some balm lily seeds, then you can start filling up this room and start planting a bunch of them. So, balm lily seed. There we go. Now we need to add some stations, some suit stations for our duplicants, because our duplicants still need to work in here, but they kind of can't if it's all filled with chlorine. So we need some suits. Let's start filling this up with some oxygen. Just going to use a dev pump generator. So you will probably want to have your own here. Let me spawn some suits here really quickly. Just pretend that you know how to do all this stuff. There you go. Deliver suits. Let's provide some power, which again, I'm just going to use a dev generator. There we go. You will want to add shipping into all these rooms too, just so you can get the Dreco eggs and stuff like that out of there. I'll add those really quick. And note that I built this so that if Drecos do climb up here, they will, and they drop an egg or something, it'll still drop down to a point where one of my my auto sweepers can still reach it. There we go. And then just conveyor loaders in between to make sure that all of them can be used. Being very messy here. We'll just pretend we hooked up all the rails to this. Now we're also going to need a place to make sure that these Drecos can be returned to the place that they will need to go. So this is going to be almost the exact same room as the one that's below. Except in here, this is where you can add the shearing station to get some extra reed fibers and stuff like that. If you ever wanted to... let me plant these balm lily seeds, by the way. Duplicants don't have access to this area yet because they don't have their suits, but you'll get the idea. I'll also kind of fast forward with everything filled in here, so we don't need to like go into this in excruciating detail. But yeah, once you're inside here, gonna want to grab a... where is this? Stations. Shearing station. Drop it in there. Set it to pretty high priority. And same rules as over here with the critter sensors. You just kind of hook it up the same way. Set up your own line. Let me fast forward really quickly up to that point so you can see everything set up. And then I'll simulate some barbecue and stuff like that coming through here so you can see the food levels that come out of this. Again, very useful if you have super low resources or if you have a whole bunch of resources that you could feed to hatches. Might as well get the food out of it, so let me fast forward and we'll get there. Okay, here's our done Dreco chamber. This is kind of overkill. I guess it depends on how many duplicants you have, at least along with this and all the other farming and stuff we have. But yeah, this is a pretty decent size. Should be able to feed a lot of duplicants. But here's the basic idea of how it works. We'll just follow the path here. So, gonna spawn some Dreklet eggs. These will lay eggs pretty quickly if you keep them tamed up enough. Say these guys drop some, these guys drop some. It's all going to get shipped back to one central location, and then it's going to be sent into this line, which is where our Dreco eggs are going to go. They're going to drop into this room, but only if there is anything lower than 14 eggs in this room. If there's more than 14 eggs in this room, it's going to close this vent, it'll come down, and it'll get fed into the same place that we sent the other one. By the way, notice how I have them going through bridges and then to this chute in my drowning tank, just to assure that it all flows in the right direction. And there. Now let's pretend as if we had spawned a bunch of Drecos underwater here. Oh, that's more eggs. There we go. There. And if you keep them in a room like this that's kind of sealed up, they won't be able to crawl along the walls and get up to any air or anything like that. But if you're laying this many eggs and you have this many Drecos, if they all die all at once, you'll kind of see our food skyrocket up because we'll be able to make a lot of barbecue from it. So over here, got Flobber, who's our original person that was starving quite a bit. There we go, massive meat drop here, sending it all down, and then they will start to cook that into barbecue. We'll have plenty of food to go around. And yeah, we've pretty much solved the food problem by now. So, thank you for watching. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to mention here, by the way. This is getting too hot. But I did use this heat source to send in the heat to make this room nice and warm. And then I'm just dumping it out somewhere that I don't really care about. But heating this room up to a point, it looks like we made it a little bit too hot, to a point that the balm lilies will grow is an important wrinkle. Okay, anyway, now for real. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped out, at least get an understanding of if you run out of food in your base, it's definitely not over. There's a lot of things you can do to recover. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I will be more than happy to answer them. I'll see you in another help video, and I've got a lot of other stuff coming up in other series here pretty soon, so I'll see you back here. Thanks again.